My guest today is Professor Dr. Trip Parker. And I first met Trip when he was a student at Shaw, and he went on to study music and now serves as a professor of educational psychology at Valdosta State University in Valdosta, Georgia, way down south. So welcome, Trip, and thanks for being here today.
Hey, I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
So tell me where you are originally from and how you became interested in teaching.
So I am originally born and raised in Columbus, Georgia. Grew up there. I was in special ed classes all the way through elementary school. Had some amazing teachers, and I remember in fifth grade, I had one teacher, Miss Williams, in particular, that I kind of knew, ooh, I want to do this. I like helping people. I like, making people feel good about learning, which she was always able to do. And so as I progressed and was, able to figure out my how I learn, because I've always struggled to learn, it just kind of built my story of how to help others with their education. So I wasn't particularly good at any academic subject. So in middle school, went to middle of middle school and joined the band and ended up playing the tuba, which was, I always tell people I didn't choose the tuba chose me.
Yeah.
Really, my band director's like, hey, one of y'all has played the tuba now. Come on, who's it going to be? And I didn't know what it was. So I was like, sure, I'll give it a shot. And I ended up falling in love with music all over again and decided, well, I don't know what I would teach. I guess I'll teach music. So I kept all that all the way through Shaw High School. I had a great time at Shaw High School. It's the best high school experience I think a human being could ever ask for. Fantastic teachers, some of the best teachers still to this day I've ever, encountered. I didn't realize how good I had it until years later, but I was able to grow and develop at my own rate. Fantastic teachers. Again, it was an average school. It was a good mix of every type of student. It wasn't 100% magnet program. What not one particular race or socioeconomic background. It really was a diverse group, and so that really made me the person I am today. To be honest with you, ended up studying music at Columbus State University and wanted to be a music teacher. Well, I happened to graduate right when the recession hit, and there was a hiring freeze. Nobody was hiring anybody. So I ended up substitute teaching for a year and kind of fell in love with education all over again because I didn't do music every day. I was teaching elementary school, middle, high school, and at all the schools. And got really good at what Harry Wong calls the first days of school. I got really good at because I would come in, a week before school ended and be like, okay, I'm Mr. Parker and I'm going to be your teacher today. Here's how we're going to do the procedures. And I would literally teach the first day of school over and over and over again. And it was always, this is the way I'm going to do. I'm going to raise my hand to get your attention. And whenever that happens, here's what we'll do. And so that, 180, actually, there was some schools that went year round. So I got almost 200 days in a row of being,
Oh, that's
first.
great.
Well, I needed the money. So, and then I ended up getting a job at a private school teaching music for the first time. Long story short, left there and started at Woodall Genet's program, which is not a place I desired to be at first. I was pretty horrified, but I was where I was supposed to be. God put me there for some reason and fell in love with it. Working with students with emotional, psychological, and behavioral disorders, and stayed there for quite some time. And so then I was like, well, I have this degree in music, which is in a weird way totally prepared me for exactly what I'm doing now in a roundabout way. But I want to learn more. And so I would look at the special education programs and their course of study and was like, this isn't really going to help me with the type of student that I have. And so I ended up going and getting a PhD from Auburn University. I would drive over 45 minutes from Columbus, take my night classes, and come back. And I got that in educational psychology because that's a degree you can sort of build and focus on what you wanted to. And I ended up researching a lot in how music affects the behavior of children with different types of disabilities, and which is still kind of my research path now. And so ended up teaching at the University of Southern Mississippi for a year, 2019, 2020. I don't know if you remember that year, but something
Yeah.
crazy happened. And after that, my job was cut there. And so I came back to Columbus and started working as a special education teacher again here. And just for a brief time, about a year, and then found a job here at Valdosta State where I get to teach teachers how to teach, which I think is the most important thing I could do is try to, and I teach classroom management. And so I teach them how to work with children from different types of behaviors and, and in my opinion, doing it, the right way and not necessarily the most obvious way. So,
You know,
all right.
if there is a stumbling block to success for first year and second year and third year teachers, it's classroom management.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you tell them right off the bat that's going to make their lives easier when they get into the classroom?
Okay, here's what I say. Nobody knows how to do it. Nobody, if the principal knew how to do it, they would do it and show you how. There's not a one size fits all. And so if anything, take comfort in the fact that we're all sort of figuring this out and it all sort of depends on that particular child in that particular moment. So with that, I always tell them, if you can get through the fact that no one's has some sort of one size fits all approach, and if we had that, we would sell it and make millions, right? We don't have that. It's more about a mindset shift and how you deal with the students, and so if you are struggling, that's okay. That doesn't mean quit teaching forever. It means keep trying something different and to never stop trying. Like if you tried this, it didn't work, the whole class freaked out and there was a fight, that's fine. You got tomorrow. Now make your plan. What are you going to change for tomorrow? What are you going to do differently tomorrow? And as long as you're always making, changes and not doing the same thing over and over again, right? Like Einstein's quote, and expecting different results,
Exactly.
then you're in the right direction. You're in the ballpark.
You know, I've heard learning how to interact with students effectively is like building an airplane while it's flying.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's pretty accurate. Yeah.
Yeah, and of course then there's the old thing about like herding cats. It's not always something that comes natural to anybody, as a matter of fact. Uh,
And
so
here's a thought to add to that airplane building. You can build it a lot faster if the students are helping you,
yeah, that's
right?
right. If
If
they're
you're,
on
if
your
you're trying to do it
side.
all yourself, it's going to take you a lot longer to build that airplane.
Yeah, and you know, without that personal relationship with those students, they have to, what I think they have to feel that you care about what they think and what they do. And you have to show them that not just once, but 1,000 different times.
Yeah,
And eventually they'll come to believe that they can trust you and listen to what you say without arguing with every single point you try to make.
right.
They have to be on your side. So, what other job choices did you consider when you were in high school or in college?
Well, I really only considered music. I felt like it was the only thing I was really good at. I mean, I love history. I'm a student of history. I've read biographies on every U.S. president. I love to learn. I'm a lifelong learner. But especially at the time, I just thought this is the thing. This is my thing. And I still do music, as a matter of fact. I have taught myself to play the pipe organ.
Oh,
And
no.
yeah, and I play for a church and direct their choir and everything. And so I still do that as a musical outlet, and it's very fulfilling. But yeah, I always thought music is the thing I'm supposed to do. It's, as a young child, I thought maybe I'd run for political office, but mercifully, I did not attempt to do that. Uh, but yeah, music teaching and at its core, teaching for sure, teaching children.
Well, let me ask you this, Trip. Is it a volunteer choir?
It is. I do pay some students to sing in the choir, but it's volunteer. Yeah.
Well, you know, one of the most frustrating things about a volunteer choir to me was that the people that would come on Wednesday night were not always the people that showed up on Sunday morning.
Right. Yeah.
But
It is.
learning how to deal with that and manage that is part of the game, isn't it?
It is. Matter of fact, I don't even do Wednesday night rehearsals. We do one Wednesday night once a month, maybe for a while, like 2 hour long rehearsal. So it's higher stakes, but everyone, if I did that, then everyone really realized, oh crap, I better show up if I'm gonna learn this music. So we do it by season, and then otherwise we show up early that Sunday, and whoever shows up is who we have, and at least you know who you're working with that day. So
That's great.
hey, if it doesn't work, try something different. And I tried something different and it's working. So
Well, good, good, good. Now, how many classes do you teach?
um different classes or just the number of sections.
The number of sections.
So at Valdosta State, if you're in a tenure track role, you usually teach 4 undergraduate classes a semester. If you teach some graduate, it can be as little as 3 a semester, sometimes a 3, 4. It kind of depends on what your service obligation is. And
And the research part is required or expected, correct?
correct. If you want to keep your job, yes, and be
Yeah.
promoted.
That's the old publish or perish thing.
That's it.
Well, I'm not surprised that that's still a an expectation. Now, you did you have a mentor teacher when you first started teaching?
When I first started teaching at the GNETs, not I did not get assigned an official mentor teacher, no, but we had a great team when I first started there, and we were sort of all in it together. Even the older ones, you're like, hey, I don't know what to tell you how to figure this out. So we're just all in this together. We're figured out together. And so that kind of mindset, that growth mindset of we're all trying to get better together. And here, I tried this today and it worked. Maybe you can try it. We talk before and after school every day, and really are still friends to this day.
So you had several mentors,
Yes, in that way, yes, absolutely.
and those are the best kind. Did you get a chance to observe other teachers?
Yes, I observed teachers a lot. We had a sort of a flexible schedule, and I could go in and help other teachers, and they would give me ideas. And yes,
Well, I did a few observations at Woodall just because, and not official observations to evaluate anybody, but just to try to learn something about special education and special education teachers. And I noticed the teachers that I watched were invariably positive. They were almost all experts in taking tiny steps forward with kids. And I thought that was one of the more impressive things that I've ever seen. They didn't make gigantic leaps of logic and expect these kids to follow. They took little minuscule steps and made sure everybody was with them before they moved on to the next tiny step. And that made an impression on me. And I don't know why we don't do that with more students and not just special ed kids.
yeah, I think really we need to be, especially for today's teachers, we everyone needs to be getting a special ed degree, because whatever you do for the least of these, right, works great with everybody. The
It
same strategy
does.
you use for somebody with a disability is going to work fantastic for it's going to make everyone's life more happy and positive and attainable in education.
And almost everybody, every student creates their own disability, whether they have one or not.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, uh, you know, it, what would you suggest that education do with the elementary kids that are being left behind in reading and math?
Well, I think we know what doesn't work. More reading and math time is not the solution. Taking them out of music and PE and forcing them into more of the same thing, again, it's not working. Now we do know some things that are working, and Georgia has taken some big steps in pushing the science of reading on. However, you know, one of the worst things that we are doing is the scripted curriculum.
Oh, Lord
um,
help.
I have so many students, some of my best students that start, they graduate here with high hopes and they get assigned to a school with a principal and academic coach that sort of watch over them to make sure that they're on module 2-9 Ford Z at 8:03 in the morning, and they'll come by and check to see if you're really doing it. And it just kills the love
Oh,
of teaching.
absolutely.
And
I
so that doesn't work. They do that because they think that teachers don't know what we're doing. We're not a real profession. We're just, babysitters, and we're just say the words on the screen and we'll be in the ballpark, which is horrifying to me. It's horrifying. And I wouldn't teach. I would rather work at Walmart as a Walmart greeter, honestly, than go back into the classroom and have to deal with that. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. I wouldn't do it. And so I think those things do not work. I think if we, so I don't know if you recall, but I actually had an interview with you when I was in high school. It was for Miss Edmondson's class, and it was
yes.
an economic class, and you were, I think it was a job interview, it was a fake job interview. But I remember, I don't know if I asked you, but you said, a good principal, a good leader, he's like, I hire the best people I can, and then I leave them alone to let them do their job. And I support them in any way I can, but not a micromanager. And that has stuck with me
Well,
so much
good.
because as a teacher, that's what I want. Hire the best people you can, and then just let us do the thing that you hired us to do. Where I think in an attempt, as schools are failing and the test scores are down, principals don't know what to do, so they, you know, try to control. When in reality, they just need to say, "Look, okay, we had a bad year. What are some things that you want to try? Y'all get together and discuss. Let's figure this out together." Instead of this, millions of dollars on a scripted curriculum where students are not really doing it; they're clicking along anyway.
I
So,
agree with you 100%. I've
no,
always thought that was like judging a doctor on how many of his patients eventually die.
yeah. But to catch students up, that we also know the best thing you can do is one-on-one with a student and sitting down with them, making time for that. But the problem is, especially in elementary school, we over schedule and we have, an hour and a half, 2 hour block for reading, and then an hour and you better get your time in or you're going to lose somebody. When in reality, you're teaching to the standard, but not all your students are on that standard.
Right.
And some of the more troubled schools I've gone to, they say, "Hey, I just teach the standard." And my response to that is, I have never in my life taught a standard. Now, I
Good.
have taught students. I have taught students using some standards when I can. But if you only teach the standard, you're not really teaching. You're
No, you're
just
not.
regurgitating them. You have to teach the student. And so if that means that this group of students are in a station rotation over here while you're pulling kids one-on-one for 15, 20 minutes to boost them up on the reading, well, that's what you do. And it's not rocket science. It really is very authentic and organic the way that teachers intuitively know that that's what they're supposed to do, but then they're not allowed to do it because the administration is asking them to do all these other things that don't help at all. But they paid a lot of money for them, so you better use them.
And never will, not effectively. But it, some of the worst teachers, I'm sorry, some of the teachers with the least effective results were the ones that would tell me, well, I covered the material. I don't know why they didn't get it. And it's as if mentioning something one time is going to stick with a kid, yeah, regardless of how old they are. I think probably the elimination of standardized testing altogether, except maybe for diagnostic purposes, uh, and taking the money that we spend, which is between $34 and $65 per student per year, and hiring more teachers. And instead of having classes of 25 or 30, especially in core subjects, we could cut those in half maybe and have 15 or 16 students in an English class or an algebra class. Then we could have much more effective teaching going on
Sure.
from the same people that we have.
Yeah.
So just lowering the class sizes would in itself be a solution, I think, that would be worth investigating. So, uh, what made you consider teaching at the university level?
Well, I impact is the short word. So what I started doing in my last few years at at the Woodall G-Nets was I would go out and train other teachers. So I would go out for half a day to East Columbus Magnet Academy and work with the teacher, and I would stay there with them and day after day, week after week, and see growth. I'm like, wow, that's great. We kept one. I kept one. Actually, the person at East Columbus is now the director, if I'm not mistaken, of all special ed in Phoenix City Public Schools. And he was borderline about to quit before I showed up. And so I felt, wow, we can keep, because we don't have a teacher shortage. There's more than enough qualified teachers. They chose to leave the profession and do something else because it wasn't what they had signed up for. And I can't blame them in every situation. So I wanted to do more of that. I kept thinking, wow, these new teachers are coming in, regardless of their degree, and they're not prepared. I think we can do better. And so I was looking for an opportunity to do that as close to home as possible. And here I am at Valdosta State, and I'm doing that every day. I feel really good about, the yeah, I teach classes in classroom management mostly. And now I'm teaching from elementary all the way to middle and high school and on into our graduate programs because up and until about a year ago, we didn't have a full-time class for classroom management. When I went to Columbus State, we had a 1 credit hour while you're student teaching, course on classroom management. It's not adequate. If we know that's the best thing, we have to be innovative. And I think at Valdosta State University, we're the right size to be able to make those changes as we see them. And so that's why I wanted to go. And now I have, hundreds of students that graduate, about 120 every year that are going out to be teachers. And so that's a big impact because now they're touching the hundreds of students that they teach.
How how many students are at Valdosta State?
So it ebbs and flows, usually around 10 to 12,000 students.
Well, that's surprising to me. I don't know why, but it is just that, that size university. When I first began at the University of Mississippi back before electricity was invented, we had 7,500 students, and now I think even Ole Miss is up around 18, 19,000 kids.
Sure.
And I sort of wonder where in Mississippi did all these people come from? But, you know, uh, anyway, uh, so what's the biggest difference in teaching elementary uh, teachers and secondary teachers?
Um, well, I think it probably depends, but I think there's a big perception difference. I'm not sure there's actual differences. I think the perception is we have a lot of we have maybe 800 elementary ed majors. So I mean, the majority are elementary ed, and people are. I think the perception is that they're doing it because it's easier content and they can't pass it. But I don't think that's true. I think
No.
our flag carrier this year is for our college is an elementary ed major. They have high GPAs. Um, but at least my short experience here at Valdosta State, I would say our middle and secondary people are they really seem to be in it more for the content. Like I really love social studies, and a lot of them graduate with a bachelor's degree in social studies and a bachelor's degree in social studies education. And that's why I love having them in my class, so I can sort of break them of the hey, this isn't you're not going to sit up there and lecture. That's not going to work in school. So and trying to shine a light on that. Whereas the elementary people tend to, and this is gross generalization, but they tend to be going in it just for, the idea of helping people, almost like a nurse or something like that, where they're excited about helping children. And like I said, the higher up you get into high school, they really are very focused on their content. They just love math.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. You're right about that. And and here again, this is a generalization, but I've always thought that elementary people had a greater level of empathy for their students, maybe than high school people did until they taught for 5 or 6 years.
Yeah,
And then they either develop that empathy or they move on to another profession.
that's fair.
Yeah. So have you noticed the number of students in education increasing or decreasing?
Um, Decreasing. I think that they're especially middle and high school, especially males, especially people of color. Um, they just, there's other jobs that they're told that are more lucrative. And this is a lot of their first chance, in their family to get a college degree, and teaching is not. That a lot of them didn't have great experiences in high school and middle and elementary school. They didn't have good teachers. So why would they want to do that? They saw their teachers frustrated, and you hear on the news, it's just an assault on the teaching profession about how, I'll tell anybody, it's the best job in the world. It's the best job in the world. You go every day, you get to hang out with people, cool people, you get to set the tone, you get to teach them some fun stuff, do some fun activities, have a blast. And then in the summer, the paychecks keep coming, even though you're not going to work. What could be better? I mean, I really do think like teaching should be the most joy-filled thing in the world. Not without its stresses, of course, but that's all on the person. It's your mindset and how you approach it. And I think that we built, people think that they know what education is, and so they go at it, in the same direction that they were taught. But if you do it in a new way for this new type of students that we have, it really should be a joy-filled event.
I think you're right about that. I have noticed also that good teachers will invariably follow a principle that allows them the freedom to teach.
Yes.
That wherever they are, teachers will go there and stay there until the administration changes.
Yeah. I don't know how much I want to comment on that, but 100%. So I tell my students, your first year, if you do things the way that I'm teaching you to do it, other teachers, the crotchety old ones, will say, "Oh yeah, their classroom looks out of control," or they're just playing games over there. They're having too much fun. They're not, learning. And I was like, your principal might too. But I'm telling you, I had 100% pass rate on these standardized tests, and I'm not, I was trained as a music teacher. So it's really not about, what it's, how you deliver that, to the students. And I tell them, once those test scores come out and your principal sees that, oh, okay, they're not sending people to my office. Their students seem to be engaged when I'm in there, and the test scores and the outcomes are where they're supposed to be, they'll leave you alone.
Yeah.
They'll leave you alone because they see that you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, but it's going to take a while for you to prove that.
Well, and so many administrators are intimidated by music teachers anyway. They think it's
As they should be.
yeah, well, there's a subject matter they know little or next to nothing about, and they really don't know how to determine what sounds good and what doesn't. Rather than just think, well, if it sounds good to me, it probably sounds pretty good to everybody else too. So there's some good teaching going on here. Uh, but it took me a while after graduation and a few years of poor teaching to discover that I could probably learn as much from bad teachers as I could from good teachers if I just went about it the right way. And that observation was the key. Sometimes it's as important to learn what not to do as it is to learn what to do in a classroom. But establishing those procedures, like you said, the housekeeping details at the very beginning makes life so much easier.
Yes.
Uh, And well, I learned that from social studies teachers of all people. And some of the most interesting things I learned were from coaches, and
Oh,
especially Charles Flowers. Charles showed me, I asked him one time, what's the difference in teaching football and teaching English? And he said, football is done outside on a field and English is done inside in a classroom. And I've had to think about that. Now, he's right. If, if all you do is just give general criticisms to kids without being specific about how to improve, neither your football team nor your English scores are going to be very good.
yeah,
But
very
anyway,
true.
uh, um, do you still play tuba?
I do. I actually have a nice King tuba, silver. I do the Tuba Christmas still in Columbus
Oh,
every
good.
year and go up and do that. Yeah, not as much as I used to, obviously, but yeah, still do.
Well, that's all right. So, how did you become interested in being an editor of an educational journal?
Well, like we kind of talked about in the beginning, as a professor, you're expected to do three things: teach, check, got that. Um, Publications, so you do research and you get them published, and service. And so this actually falls a little bit between both. As the editor of the Gateways, GATE stands for the Georgia Association of Teacher Educators.
Right.
What a better program for me to be involved with. And so I went to that conference and fell in love with the research that people were doing and presenting on. And an opportunity came up for me to, it wasn't exactly a coveted position, which is probably why I have it, but to sort of resurrect this journal, this peer-reviewed journal. So when you're in school and your professor like, oh, go and find a peer-reviewed article. That's what this is. These are peer-reviewed articles. And so got involved with that starting in August. So this counts as service to my profession and community. And it's also, a bit of publication as I, publish things in there as well. So people submit their, papers to the journal. I have to coordinate the two blind peer reviewers, send them the manuscript, and they have to fill out the form and, give feedback on it. And then I take that and I give it back to the person. And sometimes it goes back and forth a few times, takes months. But after all that, I edit it down. I have to work with a great copy editor from LaGrange College, and she's actually the librarian there, Vicky. And yeah, we cranked one out about a week ago, I guess.
Well, that's great. I looked at that, and some of the articles are pretty impressive. Do you review each one, or do you pass those around to others?
Yeah, so I read every one that's sent, and if it seems appropriate, fit, and seems in the ballpark, I will then send it out. And so I vet all of those, and then it goes to the blind peer review, and it comes back. And of course, I've read each one a half dozen times probably. What was your favorite one?
I, Trip, I don't remember. I can't
My,
remember the titles off the top of my head. I
my
know there
favorite
was.
one was Would Jesus Like Your Behavior?
Oh,
And it's actually from a scholar who started it in at Northside High School. He's an English teacher,
oh,
and
really?
went on to be the associate dean at Columbus State, and now was dean at Gordon State and stuff like that. But yeah, he wrote that one. It's very interesting.
I didn't recognize the name. Who?
Joseph Jones.
I'll have to go back and check that again. I was not familiar with any of the people with the articles.
Yeah.
Well, that my problem, not anybody
Yeah.
else's. So, um, have you kept up with national trends in education?
Yeah, it's part of my job to review those. I'm sort of a numbers person, so the research I do is mostly quantitative, usually small data sets, but I've looked at the national trends. Yeah.
I had a friend of mine one time, an excellent teacher and administrator, and she told us in a group setting that one of the mistakes that we make in education is being too data centered. That her suggestion would be student centered and data influenced.
Yeah.
And I always thought that was a pretty balanced way of looking at things. So, what's your opinion on the current initiative to eliminate the Department of Education?
Well, I have a very probably complicated opinion. There's so much going on politically. Obviously, it sounds like the worst thing in the world. I think it was started under maybe Jimmy Carter,
It
uh,
was.
and has continued. And like many, federal things has sort of been bloated. So essentially, what that department does has two key functions: student loans and money for t poor schools and for obviously special needs. I don't think the administration intends to do away with any of those things. I for
No.
one be in favor of doing away with the student loans. If they would just erase all those. But so I think that I'm not sure that that will actually happen. It does seem that there's some traction, but I'm not sure it will actually go through. If it does, they're certainly well positioned with the person in control to do that if they wanted to. But I think that those key functions would be farmed out. So the Treasury Department would get the student loans, and um, some other department, maybe Health and Human Services or something, would be in charge of dispersing that. Now I don't know how they'll do that with reduced personnel, but I think I like to think that they wouldn't do away with the especially funding for special needs and
No, that can't happen because that was created by congressional action. So you can't eliminate that. You can eliminate the department because it too was created by executive action, but you can't eliminate the things that Congress passed. You're right, they would have to be farmed out to other agencies, I think. And I would love to see the student loan program privatized. I don't know why you and I should be on the hook for defaulted loans um, when you know people that know more about loans and money and those sort of things than I do could have a chance to take that over. But Trip, listen, I appreciate you talking to me today. And we're going to have to do this again because I got some other questions I want to cover with you.
absolutely anytime.
Great. Well, listen, I hope you have a great day and your semester ends quietly and effectively. And I appreciate it very much. Looking forward to seeing you around Columbus sometime.
That's right. I'll see you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.